A wonderful Saturday it is, and a disappointing week it has been. For we saw our Shipolo Polo, that's the Copper Queens, being eliminated from the World Cup that is ongoing. But we still have got our last game that we're supposed to play. That's against Costa Rica. That's on Monday, and hopefully they'll give us a positive result from there. But this is Off the Pitch, the show that comes your way every Saturday at 9:30 hours, and I'm your host, Amos, aka Amore, and I'm not alone on set. I'm joined by one Augustine. Augustine, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much, Amos. It's always a pleasure to be here. We turn all the glory and honor to the Most High God, and good morning to all our viewers out there. I think it's been a pretty much disappointing week. The last time we were here was on a Friday. We are building up to our first ever World Cup game against Japan, and it's a shame that the next time we are on set, we are eliminated.
And a lot of predictions that day, Augustine, and you had to change your mind looking at how the other people did their prediction here on our Facebook page. A lot of them were saying 3-1 in favor of Zambia, but I don't know what happened.
Yeah, I think as we are building up, we talked about how Japan were probably the strongest team in our group because they are the only team that has been world champions when it comes to women's football from the group that we were in. And coming up against Japan, it was always going to be tough. I fancied that on the back of the performance against Germany, probably we will get into this game and get a draw against Japan. But you could see that we were very, very nervous in the game against Japan, and we went and got beat 5-0.
And before we go much into that, Augustine, the first president, that's Andrew Kamanga, had the review in terms of how the performance has been so far at the Women's World Cup and his plans going forward in terms of capacity building, in terms of the team. So for now, let's just take a look at this video as we get back. But for you as well who is home, you can as well participate by calling in. We'll give you the numbers very soon so that you can give us your view in terms of how it has been for the Copper Queens and if you predicted the results that we are getting from the Copper Queens. But for now, let's take a look at this.
Outing for us, it's been a learning experience, but also it is important to state that whatever has happened has not been an accident. It's come on the back of a lot of hard work from everybody, and I must at this point thank all the clubs in Zambia who've contributed to getting their players into the national team, everyone who's been involved in managing the various national teams at under 17, under 20, as well as the senior, and also the administration, where we've invested quite a lot in ensuring that football is played in all the provincial centers, as well as introducing the national leagues for women, which is part of the ZPL, the Super League, and the National Division 1. And it now remains our hope that going forward we will see a lot of support from the corporate world to invest as well as partner with FAS to be able to get a broadcast partner as well as a headline sponsor for women's football. So we've reached a point where we are not going to look back. We just have to continue investing in capacity building. We've invested a lot in training women coaches and a CAF A course for women, and we expect that those who are exceptional will also be given an opportunity to go for further training and get the CAF Pro license. In fact, Coach Bruce is already earmarked to go to Morocco with Coach Nyirenda to attend the CAF Pro course.
There you have it. That's the first president, Mr. Andrew Kamanga, giving his preview on the ongoing World Cup, but in terms of how the Copper Queens have been rated. And Augustine, it's something that we are not looking forward to. We managed to concede 10 goals in 2 games without even scoring.
I think the technical bench didn't do justice in terms of planning for the tournament, because we were given an opportunity of playing preparatory friendlies to try and find out which are the weak links in our teams and which are strong points as we prepare for the FIFA World Cup. And we had very, very good caliber of friendlies. We remember we went to play 2 friendlies against Colombia. We lost both of them by 1-0. Then we went to play South Korea. We lost those games again 5 and is it 3? And you could see from the friendlies that we were playing that defensively we were not managing to keep a clean sheet. Then we went into this last camp in Europe where we played Ireland, Switzerland, and Germany. In the games against these 3 nations, we managed to score 8 goals and conceded 8. From there, you could tell that the balance wasn't right, because it brought us to 0 in terms of goal difference. So now which area do we need to try and rectify and help in terms of us going into the World Cup? We knew that we had to work on our defense because it was leaking in goals too easily. And I thought in the game against Japan we would be a little bit better defensively, but we neither defended nor attacked. In the game against Japan and Spain, we did nothing of the two, and we ended up conceding 10 goals in 2 games. Defensively, we could have done a little bit better, because from the 10 goals that we conceded, 9 were scored inside our box. So meaning we do not guide our box so jealously. We need to try and improve on that. And I think it's difficult to try and digest what happened at the World Cup, because we expected at least the Copa Queens to give it a little bit of a fight. Yes, it was going to be a very, very tough group. We didn't look like a team that was going to qualify from this group, but at least we expected the Copa Queens to give it a real fight, because remember almost the last tournament when we went to the Olympics, we did much better than we have done at the World Cup.
Yes.
The Olympics, we were managing to score goals, but it was again defensively which did let us down. But we seem not to be a country that learns in these signs that we usually have before tournaments. Defensively, we are in 6s and 7s. Going forward, we are doing better. But now, our game plan going into the World Cup, we wanted to be defensive and hit teams on the counter, playing long balls to Barbara Banda. It didn't help us in any way, and eventually we've been eliminated.
How have we been dominating, Augustine, in terms, because we didn't find ourselves by fluke at the World Cup, and we've been scoring goals. And if you've noticed, we've been scoring goals from different players. But when we look at the plan and the game style that we had, or that we have at the World Cup, is only, let's find Barbara. And if you notice the last game that we played, that's against Spain, coordination was not there between Kondananje and Barbara. So I don't know if they were looking at, okay, individual brilliance, I don't know.
Yeah, I think from what we've seen at the World Cup, we can draw lessons to realize that in terms of women's football, Africa were a bit behind. You look at the team which is doing better at the FIFA World Cup, it's only Nigeria, because they've been there 9 times. So they've got that experience and they know how to play at the biggest stage. Our African champions, South Africa, they've managed to hold lead twice. They led against Sweden, they gave it away. They led against Argentina by 2-0.
They gave it
away. So you could see that in Africa we're a little bit behind when it comes to women's football. We are in the development stages, but what we need to do is, as we are developing, we need to be drawing lessons. Morocco, they got beat 6 by Germany, and you could see now that the gap is still big in terms of African football. And for Zambia, we must give credit to Bruce Mape and the girls for reaching the World Cup. I think that's our biggest achievement, qualifying to the World Cup. And we will draw lessons. Yes, we will be critical with the performances, but if we have to be realistic, we have to hit the nail on the head. Our women's football is on the rise. This is when we are developing, because numbers don't lie, Amos. We've only qualified twice to the WAFCON. The first appearance was in 2014. We finished bottom of the group. Then last time around, when we went all the way into the semi-finals and finished 3rd, that was our best performance at the WAFCON. Olympics, we've only qualified once. We were beaten 10 by the Netherlands, and we finished bottom of that group as well. So you could see that we are in the phase of developing when it comes to women's football. Yes, expectations were very, very high, because we thought that we have arrived, we have reached there. And probably that game against Germany could have been the game that maybe was the reason why teams woke up when he started playing the Copa Queens, and now they analyzed us even deep and knew our weak strength, weak points and strength, and then they capitalized on that. And our management, our technical staff, they could not respond to that. So there are a lot of lessons that we need to learn. Our league is just getting to a stage whereby it's looking like becoming a proper league in terms of women's football, but positives must be taken where we've come from with Bruce Mwape. Believe you me, last 2 years ago, no one would have thought the Copa Queens would be at the World Cup. But what Bruce Mwape has done, yes, he's done a good job, but he does has his weak points, probably reading of the game. He's failing to adjust with his tactics, and that we have been found wanting. These are lessons that we need to be learning. Like I mentioned in one of the platforms, we've got a very, very big entourage in at the World Cup, both from the Ministry of Sports and Football Association of Zambia. They shouldn't just go there touring. No, this is not about touring. It's about them learning things and bringing them back into our game, into our sports. Because if we do not do that, then what's the reason of them accompanying the girls? Nothing. They're just putting pressure on the girls. So they need to try and pick up points and learn, so that when they come back here, we will sit on a round table and see how we can improve going forward in terms of sports in our country. I think tactically, like I said, it was very, very poor. We will start with the first game against Japan. Japan, whenever we lost possession, when we had possession, we were looking to play the long ball. Probably the tactic was, let's try to catch Japan by surprise.
Yeah.
Let's bypass their press so that we go long to Barbara Banda. Barbara Banda has got the pace to run in behind. But you could see that the Japanese had planned about that earlier. Immediately when they lost possession, Japan, they will drop off so that Barbara Banda does not have space to run in behind. And whenever we played that long ball, they would come and win the first ball. And it was difficult for us to try and have any influence on that game. They dominated us. They played us in midfield. We were being passed around too easily. And then they identified that our weakest points were our two fullbacks in Margaret Belemu and Martha Tembo. Not because Martha Tembo and Margaret Belemu are not very, very good defenders, but it's because that they do not have a lot of cover when they're defending. So the Japanese side realized we're going to create overloads in these wide areas and make it difficult for the Copa Queens, especially to try and get high up the field of play. Because what they forced the Japanese, that they forced us to make errors in our own zones, which was easily for them to attack, because they are already in the final third. It could have been 6 or 7 because there are a couple of goals that were disallowed for offside. Our back line were flat. You could not play your two centre backs who are playing flat. No one. I think it's basic in modern day football. When you're a centre back, even a boy when they're growing up, or a girl, it's one up, one down, so that one becomes the cover. But we didn't see that. We are very, very flat. We tried to play a high line on top of our box, and the Japanese did capitalize from that, and we were beaten by 5 goals to nil. We did nothing going forward. No shot on and off target, which was very much disappointing on the part of the Copa Queen. And coming into the game against Spain, I expected to see a difference in terms of how do we approach this encounter. Having being beaten 5-0
by Japan,
you expected the response in the game against Spain. And immediately, Amos, if you can play that game again, immediately the first whistle goes. Spain were the ones who kicked off that game. Immediately the whistle goes, Zambian players are tracking back. They are not pressing Spain. I think I did from that. I could see that we are here to give Spain respect again. And you could see after that 12 minutes, that terrible 12 minutes where we conceded those 2 goals, we then realized that we have got nothing to lose. Let's try and play, and we had a better game from that point up until we conceded the 3rd goal. We are looking like probably we can get a goal in that game, but the Spaniards, the way Teresa controlled the game in midfield, she had 168 passes in midfield. We could not get close to her, to her, and that was probably more than half of the number of passes we had as a team. And they had the Hermoso, who was, you could know, this is their talisman. This is the key player for this Spanish side. She has scored 50 international, 48 international goals going into the game against Zambia. She had made 99 caps for her country going into the game against Zambia. Then in the game against Zambia, she made it 100 caps for the country. And she scored those 2 goals to make her 50 goals for Spain. And you could see this was a threat, but we didn't do anything about that.
Let's look at the brilliance, Augustine, just a quick one on how the keeper managed to give us those saves that a lot of people never expected, but at the end of the day, she was still scored on social media. But let's just look at some of the goals that were supposed to go in, but she managed to save them.
I think in the goalkeeping situation, after the injury to Hezonale, it was always clear that it was Catherine who was going to step up and be our main man going into the tournament. And in the game against Japan, she did her own. She saved us from the embarrassment that we could have faced against Japan. She made a couple of brilliant saves that kept us into the game. Then there was that decision where the goal was ruled for offside, but she was cautioned. But the referee, I think it's one rule by FIFA which need to be looked at. The goal is being deemed to be offside.
Yeah.
But why do we? Why does that yellow card still stand? I think the yellow card stood. Then she made the same offense, another penalty. Then she was sent off. Eunice came in. That was her debut for the national team, and she saved the first penalty. Then it was a retaken, and then Japan scored from it. And then in the game against Spain, we had no choice but to play either Letitia Lungu of Zesco United or Eunice of Nkwazi Football Club. And Eunice went into the game with a lot of confidence. She made a brilliant early save to try and keep Spain at 0-0, but they scored through a wrong range shot by Teresa, which was very, very well taken. And probably Eunice could have done a little bit better with a second goal, which was crossed into her box. She could have come in and dominated the area, but she didn't do that. Her overall performance was perfect. I think she had 22 saves that she made in that encounter, and it's not easy for a goalkeeper who is making second appearance for the national team, her first full debut at the World Cup. It doesn't happen for many, and she was decent in her performance. The defenders didn't cover her very well. They didn't protect her like she would have loved her, but it was a performance where she could say there's nothing much I could have done with the other goals that they scored against me.
Going into the last game that we are playing on Monday, Augustine, that's the game against Costa Rica, and it's a game that both teams don't have anything to lose and don't have anything to win. But looking at what is in Coach Bruce Mwape's mind right now, starting the same team that started Japan against that we started against Japan and against Spain, or maybe giving game time to those players just have been, who are there but they've been bench warming.
I think it's not about going into the game against Costa Rica. It's not about who plays, but how we play. We need to see a response in the sense that the girls will need to be a little bit braver. They need to try and take the game to Costa Rica. We've got nothing to lose here. We're playing for pride. We need to come out of the World Cup at least with something to smile about. If the girls can give us a victory against Costa Rica, it will sit well for us almost in the coming World Cup editions if we qualify, because at least we start earning points in terms of us being seeded when it comes to this particular tournament, because we were seeded as one of the lowest teams, and then now it's clear you do get the big guns because you are seeded very, very low, and we got the big guns in Japan and Spain. I think one disappointing factor that I've seen in the games that we've played in the 2 games against Spain and against Japan, I expected us to try and use the physical presence of Ochumba Oseke. They do not relish that the Japanese and Spain would have been very, very physical on them, be a little bit direct, and then play off Ochumba. And but the coach opted to go for the similar lineup. Like we went in the game against from Japan to Spain. The only difference was the goalkeeper, because it was forced. There was a suspension in there, and you could see from the tournament, Lushomo Mwemba is not 100% fit. She has failed to complete any of the 2 games. She's not as sharp as she was at the WAFCON. You remember towards the last final stretch of the league here in Zambia, Lushomo missed GBFC most games towards the end because of injury, and you could see that she lacks her sharpness going into this tournament. The coaches could have helped her with getting back to full fitness and being sharp again at the World Cup. And our midfield hasn't ticked because we've kept on playing long balls. We bypass our midfield. And these are the players like Irene Lunga and Eva Ingatongo. They did very well at the WAFCON because we had we were giving them the ball to try and express themselves very well, to try and create for the team, to try and take us a little bit high up the field, because once you've got your flair players in possession of the ball, you force your position the other way, and then you have got your defenders pushing up, and then they rest now. But we didn't do that. We didn't recycle the ball very well. Our passing football was very, very pathetic, if I have to be honest. We could not string about 5 passes together. We have to see a difference going into the game against Costa Rica. When the draws came out, this was a game which we look at. If we can get something from the Spain and Japan game, this will be a game which will see us qualify to the next stage, but it hasn't happened. We need to try and go and attack Costa Rica and play with pride, play with passion. Let the girls go out there and enjoy themselves. This is the FIFA World Cup, for crying out loud, the biggest stage in terms of world football, and you have put Zambia on that map. We have never been there in terms of senior football. We've been there with these junior tournaments, but we've never been there in terms of senior football. But the Copa Queens have managed to take us there. Can they finish with a bang? I think that's the biggest cry from every Zambian right now. And going into Monday's encounter, there are a lot of doubts. Susan Banda got injured against Spain. I believe she'll be back to training today, and probably she will undergo a late fitness test to ensure if she can play in the game against Costa Rica. Same applies to Lushomo Mwemba. Lushomo Mwemba has started training with a group again, and information is that they will undergo a late fitness test for them to play in the game against Costa Rica. And like you said, Amos, we would love to see probably a couple of changes. Let's try out some other combinations. That's when we discover the next.
Because there's definitely need for competition, especially up front. Huh?
Yeah, I think if you saw the couple of times when Avel Chitundu was introduced, you could see the difference in how what she brought to the team. She's one player who is willing to pick up the ball in tight spaces and make things happen. Probably I would start with Avel Chitundu because Shamola Mapepa, she's not lived up to expectations. She's not being given opportunity to run our propositions because we are most of the times chasing. We're not the ones with the ball. In this game against Costa Rica, it has to be different. It has to be better. It has to be good. The way we move possession and the way we attack the Costa Ricans, and we need to have a lot of bodies getting into the box, because if you do not shoot, if you do not get into the box, you will not score goals. We see with teams that have been brave sending people into the box, they have scored goals. And
maybe our execution as well, Augustine, if you noticed, I think the way we played Japan and the way we played Spain was we would see some improvement in the Spain game, but like you said earlier, once they scored us the third goal, I think we lost hope. But looking at going forward, I think making the decision in the final third is very difficult and very hard for the ladies to make, because I noticed at some point whereby Kundananji would run with the ball, there is space at half her end there, but she would decide to shoot instead of passing the ball. So maybe decision making as well is something that has to be pumped in them.
I think in the sense that why is our decision making very poor in the final third is because our starting point is very deep. If you have got Rachel Kundananji in a fullback position, then you've got Mapepa in a fullback position, you've got Irene Lunga and Ivan Ngatongo in a holding midfielder's position, probably close to the centre backs. By the time you win the ball, for you to get high up the field, it becomes difficult. When your legs get you there, your head is gone, and then your decision becomes poor when you reach the final third. I think now what we need to do is that, can you try and press the oppositions high up the field? Let's try and win the ball in their own area, so that whenever we win the ball back, it's quicker for us to move it and make better decisions, because we are not coming from a deeper area, and we do not have a lot of grounds to cover to get into the opposition's half. We could see that with Japan and Spain, the way they played. They will press us in our own half, and when we make a mistake, they are quick to play little 1-2s and then open us up, and then it helps them in terms of decision making, because they have got that time to try and execute that. But we didn't have that privilege because we played teams of high quality. We must emphasize, we played team of very, very high quality in Japan and Spain, and you could see that the difference in quality was just too big. and technically, tactically, it was too big. Even technical bench was beaten in terms of the smartness of reading the game. That's why we say we have got a long way to go in terms of improving in women's football.
Anyway, I would say it's something that even the president made mention, Augustine, in terms of he said there is need for more investment to be done in terms of women's football. But going into the Costa Rica game, hopefully we'll see a different result. And for me, I would say this is a stepping stone to us as a country and to the technical bench that was there to say there is more that needs to be done looking at women's football, because we are a dominant force, Augustine, whether we like it or not. We are somehow a dominant force here in Africa, but we failed to perform at the highest.
And probably going at the next WAFCON, we'll be going there as one of the favorites,
yes,
because of the performance that we had at the previous WAFCON. We've won our region tournament for the first time, the COSAFA. We did beat South Africa. Now we need to try and get the lessons from the World Cup and then bring them back to Africa, and it needs to show, because what we've been talking about is that we do not want to see an event where half of this team never plays for the Copper Queens because of one or two issues surrounding bonuses or whatever reasons. I think we need to try and keep this team together, because the experience that they've gotten at this high level, they are very, very valuable. And if Barbara Banda can stay at the highest level for 4 or 5 years, she will pass on this information to the next generation. We've seen this with Nigeria. That's why they're doing very well, because there's that continuity and there's that smooth transition from one generation to another. But we do not do that in Zambian football. Remember, almost 2012 we won the Africa Cup of Nations. 2013 we went to South Africa and had a poor performance. Finished third with 3 points. And everyone started calling them third legs. Then what happened next? We decided to do away with that team and then build a new one. We went to the Africa Cup in 2015, and then after that, it was drought. Because there was no smooth transition. Everena kept on emphasizing change is gradual. We cannot just do it overnight. It's the same message to the Football Association of Zambia and the selecting committee. Whatever happened at the World Cup, whatever has happened during this period, whatever personal issues, let's put them aside and put the interests of the country in front. We still need these girls. We still need them to play at least 2 or 3 more tournaments, so that the next generation that will take up from these ones would have learned from the very, very best, and they will be better footballers. I think our biggest cry now to the Football Association of Zambia and the Minister of Sports and probably the government at large, we need to try and introduce women's football in schools, and it has to be a serious program with qualified coaches training these girls on a daily basis when they go to their schools. Believe you me, in the next 5 years we will have top talented players.
I think I'll quote what Aaron Mwanga said some time back. I think he said there are certain tournaments that really don't need Barbara Banda to be there. How did we discover Eva and Susan Katongo?
Exactly.
It was out of this same. For me, I just feel like once we develop the attitude of having competition in all the positions, then definitely we'll have a very, very strong team, because certain players are playing by name. Oh, I'm done. Whether you know that you are fit, you're not fit, you're not, I'll start that game. But then all the best to the Copper Queens as they take on Costa Rica. That's on Monday. But Augustine, we can't shy away from the fact that the first disciplinary committee judged that in Ghana some time back is supposed to play their home matches at least at a distance of 60 kilometers away from Pachilata. And in Ghana, to all the Ghana fans in Lusaka, Ghana have opted to use Woodland Stadium for their home games, which is an advantage or a disadvantage somehow. But Augustine, let's take a look at the decision that Ghana made by them deciding to use Woodland Stadium as their home ground.
I think it's a welcome move for Ghana. I think it was always going to be difficult for Ghana to try and find a venue where they will be playing their home games and they will go home and probably make it Fortress. And they've decided to pick Woodland Stadium in Lusaka as their home ground, probably because of their huge fan base. Because if you look at Ghana, every time they come to Lusaka, it's always the stadiums are always filled to the rafters because they've got a very, very huge fan base here in Lusaka. And probably they thought that it's high time, probably, since we are playing away from home, let's try and give the Lusaka fans all the good football and the opportunity to see Nkana firsthand. And it's going to be interesting to see how Nkana perform in Lusaka. If in a scenario where the ban is done and Nkana are on top of the table because of their good home form, it will be interesting to see if Nkana will move back to the Copper Belt. But all in all, I think it's good that Mr. Skombe is not here, because he will be in trouble at Woodland Stadium. A certain team from Charleston.
From Charleston, a certain team that
will just be making a short trip to Woodland Stadium to beat the Our Red.
Let's look at teams that are based in Lusaka, Augustine. Let's look at Zanaco, Nkwazi. Are they going to? Is it going to be more of an advantage to those teams?
I think if you look at people who follow a lot of Zambian football, especially in Lusaka, you find most from the Copper Belt and most Nkana fans. Now it will be a situation where if you are playing the same day with Nkana at home in Lusaka, it becomes a challenge, because most of the fans will trek to Nkana, to Woodland Stadium to watch Nkana, and will abandon these other teams. So these teams will need to try and improve in terms of the publicity, to try and pull fans into their stadium, because Nkana coming into Lusaka, they will pull the crowd without a doubt. Nkana will pull huge numbers in their stadium every weekend when they play, and it's been very, very strategic by the executive of Nkana. They've realized probably when they come to Lusaka, it's a central point with the teams that are in the Super League. They've got Napsa Stars, Lusaka, Red Arrows Football Club, Lusaka, Zanaco, Lusaka, Nkwazi, Lusaka, Green Buffaloes Football Club, Lusaka. So they have got 5 teams in Lusaka. Then Kawe, there's Prison Leopards and Kawe Warriors, which gives us 7 teams. Then in Mazabuka, just a few kilometers away, there's Muza. And then you have got the Green Eagles in southern province in Choma. So it's about 9 teams.
Up to their benefit.
Yes, it's close to move when you're playing these 9 teams. And then now the rest will probably now be in the Copper Belt. But I think it was a good idea by Nkana, because it would have been huge expenses whereby they travel large distance every weekend to try and fulfill fixtures. But it will be difficult in a financial aspect, because it will challenge Nkana. We will test them to see how good they are with their finances.
Let's look at you. Before the show, Augustine, you once brought up a point that it was somehow a joking figure, but you said let's look at the cricket derby being played in Lusaka.
Yeah, I think it will be an interesting encounter, Nkana versus Power, where we will play this game with the cricket derby when it comes around. I think probably Hero Stadium could be an option for Nkana when that big game arrives, because Woodland Stadium will not manage to host the Nkana versus Power when that fixture comes around. And I hope it comes around too early, so that we go to Hero Stadium and fill up Heroes in a cricket derby being played in Osaka.
We've got about 4 teams, Augustine, that are supposed to travel. We've got Mufulira Wanderers, Kongola Blades, Forest Rangers, and Zesco, plus Power itself, who are supposed to travel all the way from the Copper Belt, coming to play Ghana, since Ghana have opted for the Woodland Stadium. But like you said earlier, let's look at the capacity of the Woodland Stadium. We saw what happened when the Copper Queens hosted Tanzania in their farewell game. It was full to capacity, and a lot of people were still outside. But let's look at the aggression of these Ghana fans. Is they more safe?
I think it's interesting to see how Ghana fans will conduct themselves now, because it's this ban that is probably, I do feel this ban is a bit unfair, because Ghana fans, yes, there are a couple of Ghana fans who misbehave. It's not all the Ghana fans that do misbehave. There are a couple of Ghana fans who always even preach for peace. They say, no, this is not what we've come to do here. We've come to enjoy a game of football. And there are a couple of Ghana fans out there who we interact with in the stadium. There are just a few individuals who opt to try and go the violent way. And probably they will be educated, and then tell them, you are the reason why the club is in this position. Because it's not good, instead of buying top class players to help Ghana win the league, they will channel that money for logistics and traveling. And booking a home venue, because it's going to be costly when you already have a home venue which Ghana play there for free, but now they have to pay.
So, and let's just look at, is it them just paying for actual games or even during training?
I think since if Ghana is going to be based in Lusaka, they have to find the training facility, and training facilities in Lusaka do not come free. They have to pay for the training facilities and lodging of players. I think it's a big cost. That's why I said this will be a test for Ghana Football Club in terms of their finances this season, and it's on their fans. If they do not see a good season from Ghana, they should put the blame on themselves. Those few fans that have been misbehaving, because they're costing the club. Instead of buying top 4-5 players, the money is being used to book Woodland Stadium.
Let's look at now team investment. We once spoke of an issue of how gate takings should be helping these teams, Augustine. Is this going to be a test, like you said? Are we going now to see, okay, this is how the game is supposed to be done, this is how gate takings are supposed to be done? Because it will be very expensive on their end, and you've said it will be dependent on how much gate takings they make.
Yeah, I think it will be heavily dependent on that, and probably some TV money to try and boost their finances. And now it's down to all the football fans out there to try and help out the big club here in terms of going to these stadiums and filling them up and paying them. Because once we do pay, it will help the club in the long run to try and sustain themselves as a top club in Zambian football. We do not want to see a situation whereby big clubs start being bankrupt and they cannot run anymore. We've seen that across Africa with big clubs that have even been relegated because of finances, and it's not the side that we want to see in terms of Zambian football and the powerhouse like Ghana Football Club.
Anyway, guys, let's look at, we've seen the decision has been made for the Carrying Black Label, Augustine, that will be played, that's on the 12th. And the venue has been set, that will be played at the Levi Mwanawasa Stadium, and the tickets are already on sale. We've got 20 kwacha for North, 20 kwacha South, 50 kwacha East, and the West Wing, that's 100 kwacha, and the VIP, that's 200 kwacha. We see these games being played here in Lusaka, but this one has been taken to the Copper Belt, Augustine. But I think on part of this show, we've never spoken of how interesting this one is, and I saw maybe you've already picked your starting 10. But this has been a different one where it's asked the fans to pick the starting 11.
Yeah, I think firstly we would love to urge all the viewers out there to try and go on Carrying Black Label's website, and then you pick your best 11, both power for either Power Dynamos or Forest Rangers.
Yeah.
So the best 11 that will be picked by the fans, the most voted for players, are the ones that will start on the game on the day at the Levi Mwanawasa Stadium. I think it's an interesting event altogether to try and evolve the fans. We've always wanted to be coaches. We always give an opinion. This is the chance now to pick a starting 11 that will be strong enough and win against another starting 11 by our fellow fans. And it's an event where I would urge all the people from Copper Belt to try and go to Levi Mwanawasa Stadium and then fill it up. These are the two teams that won silverware last season. In Forest Rangers, who beat FC Muza 2-0 in the APSA Cup, and then Power Dynamos, who won the league as champions, beating a lot of teams in the process. They only conceded 19 goals. Power Dynamos, they lost 2 games during the entire season. They were very good, Power Dynamos, and we want to see a good brand of football. And these two teams both contributed to the success of Zambia in Kosafa Cup football, with Luambo Moyela scoring for Mother Zambia, Joshua Mtali putting that cross into the box. So we're going to see a lot of talent on show. Power Dynamos have strengthened. They brought in Dominic Chanda at the heart of defense to try and rectify their problems in terms of pace, because Faustin Bakodila and Aaron Katewe do not have a lot of pace, and the coming in of Dominic Chanda brings that pace and that aggression and the exposure, because he's been playing with the national team, and he will bring that to this Power Dynamos team. They've brought in Kondwani Chiwone from their direct rivals, Power Dynamos. He moved from Power to Nkana, but now he's back at Power Dynamos. They've also signed Francis Zulu from Prison Leopards, probably a squad player to try and strengthen the team to play both Continental and the league. They've brought in Kefas Mulamba, who was one of the most promising and exciting boys at the APSA Cup, and he was one of he scored one of the goals that took Forest Rangers to the final. And it's going to be interesting because these two teams met in the Absa Cup final. Power Dynamos were leading. Forest came from behind and beat Power Dynamos. And now they've met in the Chai Shoot final. And it's going to be an exciting encounter in Dola.
Anyway, that's how the Canning Black Label Charity Shield match is going to be played. It's up to you and me as the fans to just select the best 10 that we want, either on Power Dynamos or Forest. But for now, we'll just take a very short break as we get back and look at some of the transfers that are making the airwaves.
My name is Christopher Katongo. Continue watching Off the Pitch on Camnet TV.
The outing for us, it's been a learning experience, but also it is important to state that whatever has happened has not been an accident. It's come on the back of a lot of hard work from everybody, and I must at this point thank all the clubs in Zambia who've contributed to getting their players into the national team, everyone who's been involved in managing the various national teams at under 17, under 20, as well as the senior, and also the administration, where we've invested quite a lot in ensuring that football is played in all the provincial centers, as well as introducing the national leagues for women, which is part of the ZPL, the Super League, and the National Division 1. And it now remains our hope that going forward we will see a lot of support from the corporate world to invest as well as partner with FAS to be able to get a broadcast partner as well as a headline sponsor for women's football. So we've reached a point where we are not going to look back. We just have to continue investing in capacity building. We've invested a lot in training women coaches, and I think through CAF we will have a CAF A course for women, and we expect that those who are exceptional will also be given an opportunity to go for further training and get the CAF Pro license. In fact, Coach Bruce is already earmarked to go to Morocco with Coach Nyirenda to attend the CAF Pro course.
I'm Given Singuruma. Continue watching Off the Pitch on Camnet TV every Saturday.
Augustine, it's something. The transfer window is happening, and we've seen some names. Like Tostan Savata has gone back to Zesco United, and before, when we were on a break, I asked you to say how is the competition going to be, because they've got the likes of Tieno, who is also good.
I think Zesco United, they will reach a point where they will need to release probably a couple of their goalkeepers. They've got Grigori Sanjase, he's been part of the national team. They've got Sirio Mwenyachiwe, another player who's been part of the national team. Ian Otieno, Kenya International, and now they are trying to add Tostan Savata to their ranks, who was at Zesco United before he moved to Sekekune United. But it's good for George Rwandamina because he's got a wealth of talent to pick from, and you can see that George Rwandamina is trying to build a very, very new side at Zesco United and challenge for the league title, which they've missed out on a couple of occasions. And it's going to be interesting to see how they work around keeping all those international goalkeepers happy.
Let's look at the other one, Augustine, which Polo goalkeeper, that's Francis Mwansa, who has just completed the move. He completed his move to join Green Buffaloes. And it's something that he was part of the COSAFA winning team.
I think I anticipated this move a couple of weeks ago with the relationship between Francis Mwansa and Coach Marcel Sotembo. They are probably basically under one management, and they've moved this boy to Green Buffaloes to try and get game time. If you look at what GBFC went through last season with Kasongo and Go, he gave a lot of schoolboy. He made a lot of schoolboy errors. If I think goalkeeping errors leading to goals, I think he was topping in the league, and he lost. He made GBFC drop a lot of points. If probably they could have had the goalkeeper who was very, very stable, GBFC, and made made a lot of saves. They could have probably qualified for continental football because they were that close to GBFC. But the coming in of this boy, I think it's interesting to see. It's a boy who is in a development stage of his career. He was a Trident. He was playing second choice, and he moved from Zesco Malaiti to Trident, and his career has been progressing from then. He had a very good outing at the Kosafa, but he will bring some youthfulness to this GBFC team, which is another team which look like they're trying to start a new team altogether. GBFC, they're bringing in different quality now, and Francis Mosa is one of the most promising young talent to go there.
Augustine, we've been talking mostly to say when we look at our area, that's Chelston area, we've seen some talented players. But of late, I think something made the headlines, Augustine, over the internet in terms of, on social media, over the move of one Nathan Muyambango from PSA, a team that just recently was formed.
Yeah.
And it's able to produce players. He's just 20 years old. He's been signed by Zanaco.
Yeah, Nathan, I think he's one of those big strikers. He's very strong physically. He's very well built, and he's a little bit. He's quick when in 1v1 situations. He loves to bully defenders. Last season he was on loan at Young Buffaloes. He had a few of the National League, and probably got a couple of lessons there and experience, and now he's been signed on by Zanaco. Wilson Yorenda could have seen something good in this young boy because Wada is a very tough coach, and for him to be impressed with this young boy, he should have been impressed and seeing something good, and credit must be given to PSA and Coach John Chisenga, who has been doing a very good job in terms of nurturing talent of these youngsters. He's got probably a couple of players who are in the National League with Patrick Chipet and Musa Chewe, who progressed through from young PSA and now playing in the teams in the National League. I think scouting is always key. There are a lot of boys out there who are playing some good football, and all they need is just one chance.
Oh, Red Arrows, Augustine, are they in the market?
Yeah, they're in the market. They are looking at positions probably to sign a left back. That's what I get from the Airmen. They are looking to strengthen their midfield and probably bring one or two strikers. And their outgoings at Red Arrows, one has been, most notably has been Sutra Shimenga. His contract expired. Another one was Edward Tembo. Another one who they let his contract run out. And Hope Katwishi has also moved to Mighty Mfulira Wanderers, the newly promoted Mighty Mfulira Wanderers, and George Simbamba is on the verge of joining Prison Leopards. So you could see that there are a lot of outgoings at Red Arrows, and they will need to try and fill up those gaps with this quality of players that are going. Another one was Faxon Kapumbu. They didn't extend his stay. Only that 6 months contract came to an end. They didn't want to extend it. There's been new rumor that a lot of clubs are interested in Red Arrows captain Benedict Chepeshi. It's going to be interesting to see how the Red Arrows team managed to hold on to Benedict Chepeshi, probably for, is it one more season or maybe the first 6 months of the season. And they've gone in for CEO Ibengi, who was at Janga Rangers last season, an attacking midfielder. This one looks imminent. A deal will be announced shortly because he's with Red Arrows in pre-season, and he's one of those players that if he comes in, he might just be the real replacement of Alassane Diarra.
Let's look at there's one Seth Sakala who might be signed back, or maybe by now he's already signed back by NAPSA Stars, and he's one kind of a person who has been making stints that's in Saudi Arabia.
Yeah, I think Seth Sakala, he's been enjoying life in Saudi Arabia. I think he's played for about 2 or 3 clubs in Saudi Arabia from the time that he moved on, and now he's closing in on a move to NAPSA Stars. They've lost Augustine Mulenga, and he looks like he's going to be the direct replacement for Augustine Mulenga. Sakala, he's a guy who can play as a number 10. He can play in wide areas. He's very intelligent. He's a smart footballer, Seth Sakala. He can bring something different to NAPSA Stars, and if you look at the way Perry Mutapa loves to play with his attacking players, he will enjoy a lot of joy playing for NAPSA Stars.
Just a quick one, Augustine, on this one before we wind up. Simba will face Power Dynamos in a friendly that will be played in Mbaka, that's in Papa Stadium, Mkapa Stadium, sorry, that's on Sunday, 6th August, that's next month. And these, we see how Simba manages to pack their stadium to full capacity.
I think it's always difficult going to play at the Benjamin Mkapa Stadium, whether be it a friendly or a crucial encounter. And this encounter will probably be a dress rehearsal of the CAF Champions League second round of qualifiers, because if Power Dynamos manage to get through the Namibian side, they will face Simba in the next round of continental football. And this will be a good platform for Power Dynamos to try and learn one or two things in terms of international football that they're going to play, because the Continental Football Champions League is of high profile, and Power Dynamos will really need to work very hard to try and do well at that stage. And coming up against a Simba side, you couldn't have asked for a better team for preparatory matches to try and shape you up for Champions League.
Augustine, just going to Europe, we've seen a lot of transfers being made, people trekking to the Saudi League.
Yeah, I think it's a league which is slowly but surely growing. If you listen to the probably it's the CEO of the league or the president, he talks about the plan that they have for the league, and they're not just trying to strengthen one team in Saudi Arabia. They're trying to strengthen all the team. So in the sense that when they're negotiating these transfers, it's the league which is also helping, not just clubs, but the league is also helping to negotiate these transfers so that they can strengthen for each and every team. It's more like the way they do in the NFL when there's a draft pick. Everyone picks the best talent so that you become level in terms of quality. And we've seen a lot of players trekking to Saudi Arabia. It's a league which Europeans, especially the Premier League, do not love to see, because it's growing and they do not want to see that.
Let's just look at, there's, like you said, there's a point that was said to say they've invested, or they've pumped in a lot of money for these moves to be made, Augustine. But I asked at some point, I don't know if I asked you, I don't know who I asked, to say, is there fair play that is involved in it?
I think this fair play depend on your association and your federation. You look at in CAF, we do not have those tough measures in terms of financial fair play like they do in Europe with the UEFA fair play. But you look at the Saudi, they're pumping in a lot of money to try and develop their league. They started with probably infrastructure, and now they're bringing in top talent into the country. The next thing that we'll see is top coaches now going to Saudi Arabia, and that will be the seeding. It will be a top league.
Hope it doesn't affect these leagues that we enjoy watching, Augustine, because they've gotten into the market so hard. But anyway, your quick final remarks, Augustine.
I think it's been a wonderful show. A big thanks to the entire production team for making this possible, and a big thanks to all our viewers out there. We always appreciate your time and your effort for tuning in on Camnet TV, not just another channel to watch Off the Pitch, one of your favorite sports show. And I would love to wish the Copa Queens all the very best as they tackle Costa Rica on Monday to try and at least get something out of the World Cup, come back home with little pride. And interesting to see what Morocco does. Will they bow out and be on the same plane with us coming back home? Same applies to South Africa. South Africa, we've got Tembe Katlani to carry the hopes of the nations on our shoulders to see South Africa qualify to the round of 16. And Nigeria, we only need 1 point with Asisat Oshawala and Ajebade leading the attack to bring glory to Africa. All the best.
And this is where we've come to the end of the show, and we thank you, our viewers, for always tuning in, because we are nothing without you. But on behalf of the whole entire production team, Elijah upstairs, and not forgetting pastors Victoria and Moses Chilwa, for always giving us this platform to give you nothing but the best in terms of sports. All the best to the Copa Queens as they take on Costa Rica. That's in the last game that will be played on Monday. For me, Amos and Augustine, this is where we have to say bye-bye, but stay glued for amazing Katamanda is coming on your screens with the weekly gospel. Bye-bye.